So it's getting recorded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So our first problem is like moving zeros. So array of nums is given and we are supposed to move zeros to the end of the array. And we are supposed to do it in place and minimize the total number of operations. Yeah. So like what would be the brute force here?
So the brute force would be without doing it in place, correct?
Yeah, taking extra space, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that is correct. So if you have another array, or maybe, just traverse the array first and find how many zeros are there, and then
Okay.
create an array of that size.
Yeah.
Or maybe do the other way. You just count the non-zero values and then create an array of that size. Copy all these non-zeros in that array.
Okay.
And then you restart with this, again copying it back to the input array of all the non-zero values. Just override them. At the end, you just clear the other values.
Values. Yeah.
I guess we can also use two pointer here.
Yeah, that would be like optimized. Yeah, go ahead.
So we can put one pointer at left and another pointer at right. So if 0 is at right, so we will decrement the jth pointer which is on the right side, and if 0 is at left, so we will swap that with the right one. So in this way we can do that. The general two pointer approach.
So are you saying that we'll have two pointers, one at the start of the array and one at the end of the array?
Yes.
But if you do a swapping in that case, it might be that we will reverse the order of the numbers.
You're supposed to
Or
maintain the order also.
Yes, of course. So okay, it will not work.
yeah, that
We can take two pointers approach, one on the first zeroth position, then another on the second position, and then after that we can proceed like that. We can make cases. So suppose first digit is zero and second digit is non-zero, both are zeros, and one is non-zero and another is zeros, like that. We can proceed it like that.
okay. The slight variation of what Sneha said, right? Okay. Uh-huh.
Yes, but the both pointer will be at the first hand side, means left hand side.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
You want to share the code?
I think it was unfame.
Oh, one thing.
Then background noise.
Oh yeah, Pradeep, go ahead.
There's a background. Okay, it's gone.
Yeah.
No, there was a background noise.
Okay, yeah. So you have something to share, Pradeep?
No. I was just mentioning about the background noise.
Okay, yeah.
Someone is not unmute.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nandini. Yeah.
Yeah, I have implemented the same approach. I can share the code.
Okay. Yeah.
Same two approach. Yeah, you are able to see my screen.
No, not yet.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are, but I'm not able to see your screen.
Okay. Yeah. Is it visible now?
It's coming up. Just give a second.
Yeah. So 2 pointers basically I'm taking.
Just a minute.
One
Actually,
pointer
it's still
will
not
be
coming up.
it's still not
It's loading. It's loading. Net issues is there.
You have some net issues, it seems. Yeah, some lag. Maybe you'll have to again unshare and share it, right?
Yeah. That is, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's coming now. Okay. Now it's
I'm
visible. Yeah.
switching to other head. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. To other head. So I'm taking 2 pointers. Like one pointer is my other pointer. I'm declaring it as a J, and what I'm doing is whenever I'm a counter which is not 0,
I think
replacing
voice
that
is.
particular number. For example, if it's 0 and 0,
Not seeing your
3,
code. You're
0,
sharing
1,
Zoom website, not seeing your code.
I
not
think
seeing my
you
code,
Yeah, no,
you
I think you need to
visualize it.
focus on the lead code of your. It's focused on the Zoom.
not seeing my code.
Yeah, you need to switch the tab of your browser. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let me disconnect once again.
No, it's fine now. Okay. Yarosh.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me share my screen now. Okay, is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm doing is like iterating over the list of numbers and declaring a one more pointer called j. And whenever I encounter a number which is not 0, I'm replacing that particular number with the pointer. I mean, when I do like that, all will be something like 1 I'll be getting, then 3, and then 12, like this. And finally what I'm doing is I'm starting from that particular j where it has ended and just appending the zeros for that, like this. Am I clear?
Yeah. So you are using the
Yeah.
two-pointer approach. The other person
Yes.
also said,
Which,
yeah, okay. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically like whenever I encounter a non-zero number, I'm just replacing that particular number with the replacing with the start. This index. Maybe you
Correct.
can think, and incrementing it in the level wise. So when all the numbers are finished, this j will be pointing at some particular index, and from that index, I'm appending zeros.
Correct. Yeah. I would also think that same way. Yeah. That is right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one passes you are using, right?
Yeah, it will be in one pass. Correct.
Yes.
It will be in 2 bars.
Yeah, it will be.
One is like this part, and the other is for this.
It's one pass only
But
then, because
overall, it's order of n.
and it's only
No,
one
no.
pass. Because,
This
It will be n plus
no.
3.
This I will be iterating total length of the numbers, right?
okay, yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
this from the middle, from where non-zero numbers are there.
Yeah, one
From
and a
there
half
I'll be
pass.
appending the number. Yeah, overall order of n.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can it be done in single pass?
Sorry. Yes, sure.
Can it be done in single pass? Like,
I think it is possible. I did not actually look in
Let
that.
me
But
share my screen. I've done a single pass. Let me share my screen.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, it is visible.
yes.
Okay, so I have used the two-pointer approach. One pointer on the left side and another pointer on one pointer J on the left side and I on the just after immediately after that. And then after that I have made the cases. So J is not a 0 and I is non-zero, and then we swap it. And when any of them left hand side is non-zero, then we increase the j pointer over here. And if suppose both are zero, then we will increase only I, not j. So I have not mentioned that condition over here. And suppose j pointer is zero and I pointer is not zero, then it will increase to immediately after to next, and then like that my approach changes.
So j will only increase when you fill the array with some non-zero element.
J only increases here and some, I think here. So j will increase only when both are non-zeros, and then any of one is any one of them is zero means.
So, but the drawback is like couple of cases you're taking here. But in the earlier one, like it was
simple, but in one go it is like that.
But you are optimizing the passes. So.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but here you could have done like if nums of I is not equal to 0, and then just swap it, right? Will that not work?
Order
and don't use the two cases, like what you have on 7 and 14. You could combine that in one. I just a thought. I'm just thinking loud. Right? That might be possible.
This condition and this condition is completely different. Here I am doing swapping because the non-zero element here is in the left side, and here the non-zero element here in the left side, and it is here in the right side.
Yeah.
So I'm doing swapping over here. I'm doing not swapping over there.
Yeah, but so you are not swapping because you are saying that both of them will be the same number, right? In the 14 case.
Oh, which case?
In the 14th one.
Yes.
14th.
Okay. So you could do the same in the swap and write your own swap function saying if the indexes are same, I'm not going to swap it. Something like that.
We can do like that also.
Yeah. So you can actually combine those two. Yeah. I think that's good that way. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we can switch to next.
Yeah, any other questions or anything? Okay.
Okay. So we can proceed, right?
I think so.
The binding is given to us, and we are supposed to find the leftmost value in
you need somebody speaking.
Yeah. I need to mute that, right?
Yeah.
You may want to mute everyone.
Shashank, can you mute them?
Yeah.
Mute all.
Oh, mute all. No, I muted.
Okay.
Yeah. We are supposed to find the leftmost value in the last level of the tree. So here, like last level is 7, and this is only the left child. So 7 would be your output, and you may assume that the tree is not null. Yeah. Even node is not null. So what would be the brute force here?
So actually the problem is we have a binary tree, correct? And nothing they have mentioned it's a binary search tree or all that stuff. Nothing. It's very simple binary tree, and then we are giving a root node. Okay, and then we just have to find the leftmost, the lowest, in the lowest level, whichever it is, the leftmost value. So it can be right in the right subtree also, or maybe in the left subtree also, correct?
Yeah, the left one. Yeah.
Yeah. Only the value should be the first one in that level.
Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe brute force would be just go through each and every node, and then you could actually pick them in some array. So the array will be something of a pair which will have the node value or maybe the node itself, the address of that node, and you will have the maintain a level also, something like that.
You would need level.
So seems like this could be a level order.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that is correct. But he said, what about the brute force? They are trying to make a brute force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So can we do that in a recursion way, like visiting each node, like following some pattern of a pre-order, post-order, like that, to return the last value in a brute force way?
Okay. Makes sense. So, okay. So in that case, maybe
I
we
have an
can.
idea.
Post order might work because children we are visiting.
Can we do like we go to a node, right, and we find out the height of left subtree and height of right subtree, and if height of left subtree is more than the right one, then we'll go to the left part, and similarly, like we will give priority to the left subtree. We'll check first its height and then after that. Like, can we do it like that?
Yeah. So whichever height is greater, you will go that side because that isn't it?
Yes.
But in that case, so will you be calculating height recursively?
Yeah, then it would be recursively height calculation.
Can you scroll a bit to example 2?
Like what is?
Yeah.
Can you show me the example, right?
He's saying, can you scroll a bit, please, to that?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. So in this example,
like we will go to node 1 and we will check from their height of left and right. So the right subtree height is more than the left one, so we'll go to right one, and from there we'll check height of left and right. We'll go to left, then we'll come to 5, and then we'll check for left and right, so we'll go to 7, like this.
So the function calling for getting the height, will you be calling it recursively at every step?
Yes.
At every node, which means I suppose.
Yes, at every node.
Okay. So in that case, I think the time complexity will grow a little, no?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, it will grow.
Because we are talking about brute force, therefore these people are coming with this solution. Yeah.
So one thing I need to ask, that's a good solution. The finding a depth is, first of all, finding a depth is
order of n.
Order of n for both the sides, correct? So that's why it is going recursively and again finding depth for each node, which is more than an order of n, correct?
No, it can't be. Height will be order of n greater than that.
So
recursive calls might be more, but overall time complexity should be for a tree. Like if it is a left skewed or right skewed, it will be order of n.
It will be n squared, no?
Yeah, go ahead. I told that if a tree is right skewed or left skewed, so in worst case, calculating the height of a tree would be order of n.
No, but if we do it for all the nodes, then it will be n square, right?
So, for example, if we were at one, and then we find the height right side, and again it will go to this tree, like 3, 5, 6, 7 to find the height, and then we again move to 3, and then again it will find the height 5, 7, and 6.
So better you start from bottom.
How will you go to bottom?
No, though. So the time complexity I was asking, is that I am calculating correct that it will be going to same path twice or thrice, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah,
that was the brute force row. So then, yeah, that is true. We will have more time complexity, but then we'll have to actually optimize, right? So
so that one solution is there. Yes.
Yeah, that is one solution for sure. Yeah, so the optimized way would be a level order, right? That is a very easiest way, I would think.
Yeah,
the BF is easier. Yeah,
I think we can also do DFS directly.
Sorry, Ronnie?
I think we can also do DFS directly.
More intuitive to use BFS because last level they are explicitly saying. Yeah, you can use DFS also. No, I mean no issues at all.
Yeah, Both should
I
work,
think both
but
would be the same complexity. It doesn't matter either
right.
BFS.
Yeah.
But DFS is more intuitive here because I mean each level we are going and
Yeah.
we are reversing the child and printing, right? Like rather than going from right, see, like we are at 1, then go to the next level. So in next level you will insert Q, first right and then left, because 2 would be the first one to be popped out, right?
Yeah, so you could do it the other way also. Yeah, but depends. Yeah.
Directly push.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we can directly push left as well first, right?
Pardon?
We can also push, like when in the queue when we are at 1 and we want to push the child, we can push 2 and 3 as well, right?
Yeah.
But why he's trying to do it the other way, I got it, because it will be very efficient to do it the other way. Just push the right first and then the left, because at the end you don't have to store that value, correct? Something like
Exactly.
that. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, small, like if this is 2, first you push 2 into queue, then you push 3 and 1. So when you pop, I mean, when the queue is empty, this would be the last one to come out and just return your result.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a
Or
good optimization.
what I thought it's to implement this is like take just one variable which pointed out that whenever you start that particular level, if that is the initial, that's the first element you are saying, you just mark it, that's the first element. So like just add left and right in the queue and then in the normal way, and just return whatever the the first element in the last level which you have stored.
Okay. So you're trying to say go through level order, and each level, whenever you encounter the first node, you just store that value.
Yeah, just store that value.
Okay, makes sense. Actually, I also would do that. That is the better way of understanding very quickly and getting it done. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Because first child will be the potential candidate for this. I mean, that's why you're pushing here.
Yes. So
but let's say if 3 has
on the basis of a level order. So if we know the structure of level order, then the further implementations can be done on the basis of that.
So in your case, you will take second child also, right? First left and then right. You'll insert inside the queue, right?
Yeah, that would be done. Yeah, left and right needs to be added.
Yeah, because right can have left child also.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought simply first child you are taking, and
no. You need to add both.
Yeah, you'll have to do the complete level order, but only store the first one in each level.
Yeah, store the first. Just mark that and reinitialize that variable whenever you're starting the new level.
Correct.
And the same approach that can be implemented very easily. Like we can take one map and of int, and we can traverse. Like we can do it in order way. Like we will increment the level, and if that for that level, if we have stored the information, then we will not get that, and we will go with the previous one only, because for the first node we will encounter the leftmost only if we go with the unordered way.
Sorry, I couldn't follow. Can you take an example, please?
Like suppose 1, 2, 3 is given. Suppose so. If I take a map of int, the first key is the level of the current level which I am having. So I'm going left towards left firstly. Therefore I will update the map. Like suppose I can share my screen, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I think I got the approach, maybe.
You want to share?
No, I haven't implemented that, but I think he's explaining to store the first value in every level. Like at key would be the level, and the element value would be the whatsoever the first element of of that level.
That level.
Oh,
I think.
okay. Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So, but it is a DFS approach, correct?
Yeah, DFS approach.
Okay.
And it is taking an extra memory, like we are doing the level. I don't know the level by level or DFS, like, and having the map.
First, the three parameters will be there. Like first will be the node, second will be the map, and third will be the level pointer. That as we go towards left, then I will pass like that. That was T left, MP, and comma level +1, like that.
So that would be a good approach if we have to return all the left values of all the levels.
But in that case, in this case, what I will do that because I want to go with the bottom most, I will find I will return the endmost value in the map. And the rightmost value.
I think the space complexity for both the approaches are same. Means the labor order and that map approach.
Yes, it is same only.
So how we can optimize that space? How we can optimize that space complexity? Is there any way you can also suggest?
Do we need to keep a map?
Use it one variable itself, right?
We can do it when using one single variable because you only need the last level, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the level order is slightly more optimized than what Ankur's solution is. That is what I think. Right?
Yeah, you can say, yes, it's true.
Yeah, but he has it's.
Can we do like that?
Right?
Suppose we have one single variable, and then we traverse level order wise, and then if suppose at the last level we stored the the value in that variable.
Right. Yeah, that is optimized version, but he also has a different approach. So he was just trying to share it. Yeah.
So I have the approach of that single variable. If anyone wants to see that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let Ankur go and then again followed by you.
So, I haven't coded it, but I use this approach in my I've seen this question in my that one of the OT. Again, the one OT that I use this approach only.
Okay. Okay. Then no problem.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sonia. Yeah.
Sonia can say.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So simple BFS. Added a root in a queue and then just took one variable, which is like a previous, and just initialized BFS, and while size is greater than 0, I just popped at my node. Here is the main logic. Like if I have seen, if it's the initial one, like its start is 0, then I'm adding that my current first node in my previous, and then increasing my count. So my start should also be increased because I don't want to make it as a 0. So then simply I added left, right, decrease the size. For example, if I am on a level 2-3, I reached level 2-3, and now 2-3 would be initialized with 0. And here 2 would come, it would be previous would be 2, and my pointer would also increase. So added 4 over here because it's just a 4. So next time if 3 comes, 3 pop out, then it would not come in this part because it's already in increase because it is not equal to 0. So it's just add its children's and then like move ahead. So similarly, if I reach the end part of like this level last, and I popped out, and it would be the last. It would be the only it would be the only. It would be the first element. It would store that value over here, 7, in the previous, and in the end, I will just return that value.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So it can be done like anything. Like you can take if start is not null, or if anything, if a flag can be put. So anything can be added. I just thought to add like this. Flag is also a good point to add.
Yeah, a Boolean value. Yeah, either of it
Like,
works. Yeah.
one that we can do in that will also we need two traversals. Like we will find the height of the tree. Like so in the second example, it is 4, suppose, right? So and, so since what I was doing previously, like I was encountering the first value that I'm only storing. So I am concerned with only one value. So if at the maximum height, the first value I encounter while going to the leftmost in order traversal, I will store in that for one variable only. That will be the answer. So that will be without any space. Is it will work or not? I want to ask.
You do you have implementation or something? Can you share that?
No, I'm asking you that it can work or not.
Okay.
Yeah, height one will.
But you are saying height one would be how you will be approaching to the height, like just
No, height of the tree. Except like for height of the whole tree, because I want the leftmost value, no.
so you're saying if you know the height of the tree, you will be simply directly go to that
Yes,
level.
that level, yes. And
But
the first
we will be given the root node, but we need to traverse to reach the end. How will we reach to the end?
Okay, I'll share it. I have implementation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think we can do that. I mean, at every subtree, you can just calculate the height, and whichever is greater, you will go to that side, and eventually you will drop down to the bottom, I think.
So you can do a in-order traversal, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
So this is what this is like calculating the left height of a tree and right height of a tree. Okay. So and it will return the max, like normal height, how to get the height of a tree, right?
Okay.
So after that, this is the terminating condition. I mean, when you reach level equal to 1, that means you are at the top level, right?
Okay.
And if there exists a node, just you nodes.append the value and return the nodes for that. And you'll have a couple of nodes, so we'll return always the first node. That's why I'm putting here 0.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one implementation.
Pardon?
Like I have one implementation that I used and I told right now.
Yeah, sure.
No, but Shashank, this one what you are sharing now. So from line number 19, that is a different function than
yeah. 19 to 27 is a different function.
Okay. So on the line number 13 to 17, you are actually calculating the level.
Height of a tree, both the left and the right height.
Okay. So
yeah, that will give you the level. Yeah.
That will give us the level, and then you are using that level. You are passing that in the line in the line number 19, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And as on you go decreasing, you just keep on decreasing the level whenever you go down.
Oh, okay. So you are not doing an in order, but when on the line number 19, you are doing a pre-order, correct?
Yeah, first I'm doing root and then left and right. Yeah.
Okay. So pre-order also will work. Huh? Okay.
In order it is, right?
Is it in order or it's pre-order?
It's pre-order.
Pre-order. Sorry, yeah. First root, then left, right. Okay.
Pre-order.
In Shashank, can you explain a little, please? I am not able to follow. If we have if we go to line number 23 or 25, if left or right exists, then in that case, are we not returning anything?
If you can you come again? I mean, I couldn't get you.
Let's say we are on line number 23 and node of left exists.
Okay.
Then you're simply calling this function, right? And you're not returning anything.
Yeah.
Or easy, because on line 22 you are returning nodes, correct?
Right.
Line 20 is the final case. Like when you finish the entire level. I already calculated. Let's say 6 was the height. You keep on decreasing. You go to the last level, and then at the last level, I'm returning the first element of it. That is for 0. That I'm calling this function here. You are saying that every why you are not returning here. If not dot left, return get, right?
Right.
Like, okay. Like I have one constant space solution. Can I share that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just a minute before going there. So, okay, so that is one correct what Ronnie is saying, because your function from 19 to 27 is single function, correct?
Yeah, 19 to 27.
Yeah,
Yes.
so on 27th line, you are returning the nodes, and also you are returning nodes on 22nd line, correct?
22nd, yeah.
And
That is the
27.
final level. Yeah.
So, but when you are going inside 23, when node dash left, you are not returning any value.
Yeah.
Those are intermediate nodes. That's why I'm not returning.
No, but
Okay, so the Python does allow like that. I was not able to understand. Yeah. Okay.
But okay, Ishan, can you tell me one thing? Let's say the tree is 1, 2, and 3. 1 is the root, then 2 is left side, and 3 is the right side. So the answer in
Okay.
this case will be 2, right?
Yeah.
Right. And the height of root, that is 1, will be 2 as well, right?
Yes.
So and the level will be 2 as well, also, right? So
Yeah.
when we call the function line number 28, we jump to
Okay.
line number 19. The node
Yes.
is 1, level is 2, and nodes is empty,
Empty list.
right?
Empty list. Yeah.
Okay, then we are, if level equal to 1, no, it's not. Then we'll go to line 23, node or left exists, yes, it exists. Then we'll call, and it will return 2, right?
Level will be reduced. Level will be 1,
So,
and it will
okay,
return
so the nodes that you're passing, it is sort of by reference, right?
by address I'm passing, not the exact what is it?
Got it.
Okay.
Cool. Then it makes sense again.
So can we return over like here only if node dot left, then 24 return this, and then if node dot right return this instead of returning at the 27?
Yeah, we can use, but again I have to modify then it here. What is it? 27 line. I don't need to return nodes then at that place. I'm first going left and right both. After that, I'm putting it right in the yeah.
Because
So
it will
you-
end, it will return nodes over in line 22 only, and whatever the answer we'll be getting from.
Actually, I'm passing that the node parameter itself. I'm passing inside the function, which will keep on appending the nodes at each and every level. See, these nodes I'm passing inside the function. I'll have to remove it from the function and then return nodes I'll have to write.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other way we can, if we don't want to pass
I
it?
have-
And
I have one
I
question.
Other ways, okay, go ahead.
I
What
have
the
one-
intensity of this approach is order n square, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Uh, Shashank,
Yeah, sure.
I have implemented it. Sure.
You want to share it, right?
Yes.
Shashank, can you
Okay.
please share this code as well?
Sure, I'll share it in the Discord.
Yeah. Thank you.
best idea is to
So,
click the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can share in chat also.
So what I'm doing is that a pre-order traversal initially. So I have taken 4 parameters: root, level, value, and h. So this h will store the minimum value of the level. So what I'm doing is that I'm going first left and decrementing my level, and side by side I'm updating the checking with the previously stored height. If the current level is less than my previously stored height, so I will update this h, and I will update my value. This value will contain my answer, and then I'm going to write, and similarly going to level -1, decrementing it and checking again this thing, and then this value will contain my answer, and then I'm returning this value. So this is going only one traversal every time, and it's also constant space solution. You're not using any space also.
Is that a in order or a pre-order?
Pre-order, sorry.
Yeah, I think it is the same what Shashank implemented, right?
Yeah, it's
But
kind of.
but he was using like n square solution.
What is specification?
Like you wrote two functions now for calculating height also, and then another function
Yeah.
for the. But I am doing it in the same traversal. I'm updating one parameter only. I'm taking that one, not calculating height for any
Okay.
node. So it is different from that.
Simultaneously, you're doing.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's a nice thing.
Yeah.
Without any queue and without any anything extra O(n) calculation of it is
But the
single traversal.
complexity is same.
Often.
Order of n. Every node is visiting.
Order of n.
But you still use the call stack, correct? You are
Yeah,
using a
that will
call
be
stack.
the extra memory.
Yeah.
Somewhere you'll be caught.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's good solution too. Yeah. Makes sense. Because it's always tricky, you know, to implement. I think it's my opinion though, or maybe my understanding. Like whenever you implement any recursive functions, you know, it's very tricky. And in an interview, if you are not very, you know, precise about how you implement it, you just mess up one or two things in this, then you're done with that. So I don't think it's always safest to do that unless you are very confident of how it's going to work. You know, I know, yeah. The in order or post order, those are okay. Yeah, but
Actually, because in the recursion, you need to make sure that your exit conditions. Sometimes you will not be able to come up what would be the exit conditions. And I have seen in my interviews, if you don't know the exit condition, you will be messed up in the recursions.
yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So I like to be more safe. Yeah, but that's good. Yeah.
But recursion saves lines of code.
Absolutely, yeah. And it looks very neat also.
That's why it's trickier.
Right. Yeah, good. So, Shashank, you had the one approach you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the most optimized version.
This is like that which I was talking. Queue, you pass the route. As long as your queue is not empty, keep on popping. So here first I'm appending a right and then appending the left.
Did you hit TLE as well?
No. TLE, I don't think so for this.
Okay.
Let me see, I'm not sure. No, it's not.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Nice.
So you are not storing, so that also you are avoiding in this case, right?
Yeah. Okay. So it's like 2 I'll enter and I'll pop 2, then 3 and 1 I'll enter, and then 3 has nothing, so it will pop. Node will have value 3. At last, node will have value of 1 and your queue will be empty. So directly you'll return out of the queue.
That's a simple, small approach.
Yeah, exactly. What space it is using, that's the drawback.
The space is like same. If you use the DFS as well, that would also be using the stack. In here, we are using the queue.
No, I mean, the one height one was not using extra space. Implicit stack only it was using. I mean, the call stack which we say.
But that is also equal to this
space
call stack, or because inside only if we are doing a recursion, inside the implementation, it's maintaining that kind of a stack like an extra memory.
Call stack is a system is giving you the space, right? So it shouldn't be considered as your space complexity.
Okay. It depends. The interviewer might say that it's an extra space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here also, if we are checking at one time, there would be no more than it's depend on the height, how many you are adding nodes in the one queue. If there would be never be the n nodes at one in a queue at one time.
Yep, I think this is good one.
But in BFS, I mean, in the BFS, you will use more memory, right? It will be per level. I mean, one level will be at the complete in the queue, but in the DFS it will be on the order of height, right?
So now that's a comes between the DFS and BFS differences and the time complexity thing.
Yeah, but Uday, if you see in the DFS, if you are using the recursive way, right? So if you are using a call stack and if you are using just a stack, STL stack implementation, there is also some difference because call stack, if you use, it actually uses more memory. On the local variable, it will store all the local variables, the return parameters, and it's going to keep a buffer also.
Yeah.
I just checked out the time complexity of BFS and DFS. They say they both are same, which is order of E plus E.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, but the only thing is if the level increases, in the DFS, the tree height increases, then it might get more complex, and it might consume more time.
In the worst case, it will be ON only, right? The height will be, which will be like entirely skewed BT.
That is fine, but even if you go for a height of like 40 or 50 recursions in a recursion function call, and if you just try to measure the timing, you will see the difference. Then it actually takes more time. So there is some small thing to be very careful about that.
Yeah.
Though asymptotically they are same, but the runtime differs a little.
Yeah, the actual time actually. So big of O of n, they both are same, correct? And usually the tree height won't go more, right? Because if it keeps on expanding, then you'll have more nodes, and then it's not possible to go with a height of 40 or 50. It will be huge.
But in BFS, we only need to save nodes, like number of nodes at one level, and the maximum the level can grow up to n by 2 nodes. Like at the lowest level, we can have maximum n by 2 nodes, even if it's a complete binary tree. But in DFS, if your tree is skewed, so then the space requirement can grow up to n, or like linear ON. Not ON, it's an n times. So yeah, that's the only thing I can see. In BFS, it's safe, even if it's your complete binary tree, maximum you will allocate space for half of the nodes. But in case of, if you always go with DFS and it's skewed, at the end, you will be having all of your nodes on the call stack.
But if it is skewed, BFS will also take a lot of space, right?
No, because you will save only one level, so it will be one node at that. So you will revisit your node, you will pop it out.
Okay, children will be one, yeah.
So
So when the base is wider,
for BFS, problem is with the complete binary tree. At the lowest level maximum, there would be n by 2 nodes. If there is complete n nodes in a binary tree. So
yes. So when the base is wider, we go for DFS. When the height is larger, we go for BFS. I mean, it can't be hard and fast rule like that, right? Kind of.
True. Right. Depends on your inputs. If it's skewed, you can always go to the iterative approach.
But your test case cannot be just skewed or non-skewed, right? It can be anything. Yeah. You will have to implement.
That's why it's always safer to go with BFS, because you can expect there would be enough memory to keep half of the nodes on the stack. So yeah.
Yeah, good.
So shall we switch to next?
Yes.
No. The countering.
Testing one.
Yeah. This one. Oh, previous one you are talking.
No, this one.
Yeah, this one is. So an array nums is given, and you are supposed to return the range sums which lies between lower and upper. Both are inclusive. So your range sum is S of phi j defined as sum of elements in nums between I and j. N square is a trivial solution. Supposed to do it in a better way. So like 0 to 0 index -2, which falls in your lower to upper. Again 2 to 2. I mean 2 to 2 means -1 they are talking. That also falls in your -2 to 2. And 0 to 2 if you do, that is -2 -1. I mean, the sum of this array will be what do you say, 2, which also falls in your lower to upper range. Yeah, so these are the only 3.
Why 0 and 2?
0,
Because we
I mean,
have given.
You add all these things from 0, 1, 2. 5 plus 5 minus 2 will be 3, and 3 minus 1 will be 2.
Okay.
And that is in your range of -2 to 2. So how do you think in a brute force way?
Yeah, brute force way, he said it's a ON square solution.
Yeah.
And he's saying it's
Yes.
trivial one, so it is correct. So
Yeah.
start from first node, first element,
yeah,
in one loop, and go on inside another nested loop. Look for each and every element after that, right?
Like one
And
better
then
one
keep
is
on
the
adding.
Sure.
like one better is the like we can maintain a prefix sum array, and with the prefix sum array we will calculate the sub array sums every time. That better brute force, but it will not pass here. Like it can be a brute force also. Like, suppose we make a prefix array.
Simply prefix array, I won't think so it will pass. Prefix sum.
No, because it will be offense square. No, not pass.
So he's saying better brute force. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Better,
nice.
yeah, that's true. So, but if you
how would
maintain
that be better than brute force? Because you do the same, right? With the prefix sum, the same as the two loop that Santos mentioned.
No, prefix sum can be done in one loop. I mean, one pass.
Yeah, but then you have to find the subset of it, and which is still another two loop.
And you should find a pair of prefix sum.
Yeah, and how many pair you can find? Yeah,
yes,
that's n square, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I also think now. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that's true actually.
I didn't get like prefix sum in one. I mean, 2-pointer approach. I founded the prefix sum.
But
I mean,
in the end, we need to find the range.
No,
as
like
well.
let's say both the pointers I'll put on -2. So -2 is falling in my range. So I'll increase the right pointer. Now when I sum them, it will be 3. 3 is not falling in my range, right? Then since it is not falling, so I'll again increase the right pointer, which is again the entire sum is 2, which is falling in my range. So in one pass, I can do it, right? No.
You'll have to go for the next index also again, right?
Yeah.
You are missing. Then you are missing some cases also.
Yeah,
exactly.
From 5 also there can be a possibility that some can.
Some index like 3, 3, 2, 2, and then you are missing some other cases also.
Yeah, so Ankur's way of the better brute force, what I think, what he is trying to say, maybe I'm wrong, like what he's saying, first do a prefix sum, okay, on the first level of your loop, okay, you just go through each and every index, but when you go for the inner loop, at that time you just have to subtract the prefix sum of that index with the, so in that case, you don't have to keep on adding whatever that variable. So that might be minor, saving, but I don't think so that will be a big thing. But initially you will have to do a prefix sum. That will be an additional thing, correct?
In that case also we have to find a pair, and for subtraction also we have to find a pair. No,
right.
Won't affect much.
Yeah. But prefix sum surely will be needed in this one, correct? To find the better, not the brute force, but the optimal solution.
Yeah, one step will be prefix sum, I think. Yeah, it will be.
And still you are not going to get something much better than like O log n, right? On log n.
Yeah.
You still you'll be getting something closer to n square, but slightly lesser than n square.
Yes.
Somewhat. And space also you'll have to use for that.
Yeah. But they are not concerned about the space, but they are trying to say if you could do something better than ON square, correct?
Yeah, but at the cost of space only you are reducing, right? If I restrict that you don't use the space, then will it be, possible to get in
Yeah, space
level
will,
decision.
yeah, there will be a sacrifice for that on the space front. Yeah, that's true. I think someone had an approach. Yeah.
Sure.
I have tried some approach, but it is not working. I don't know why. I have used two-pointer approach, and similar to that, but not exactly similar. Means first we need to put both the point over here, and suppose this value is in our criteria, then we increase the pointer and we increase the size of this. And when we get the sum greater than the means not in the range, then we should decrease and check whether it is there in the sum or not. Then in that case, we can cover some cases, but I don't know why it is not working.
This is like more like a two-pointer approach only, right?
Yes, I have used two-pointer approach.
Do you want to share on a white screen, whiteboard or something?
Yeah, that will make a bit more clearer. We can rectify in that case. Like we can see what is.
Without any explanation, we can't.
Okay, let me find way I have done.
So I may have a reason why a two-pointer approach is not working. On one of the threads on LeetCode, I have read that if an array consists of both positive and negative integers, then the two-pointer approach, where I am assuming that you are first you are doing an expansion and then you are doing a shrink.
Yes. At the time of shrinking, shrinking is done when the sum exceeds the means given criteria.
Yeah, in one of the problems I have read that for these kind of scenarios where both positive and negative are there, two-pointer approach won't work. Someone tried to give a reason. I will try to find that.
The two-pointer we should not apply whenever we have positive and negative elements in array, right? That is what.
Yes. That's what I was saying.
But okay, I'm not sure.
So even if you have a 0 also, I think two-pointer approach doesn't work. So you should have only non-negative numbers. Then only two-pointer approach works for the max sum subarray.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other approach?
Go ahead.
Any other approach? Hello.
Yeah, somebody was saying something earlier. Like.
No, it's clear that two-pointer is not working on some negative value.
Okay, so one was like hash map, like I was going through the discussion. Let me share the thing. So this is what I think Santosh and some other speakers were also talking. So this is what I'm doing, your cumulative sum. What do you say? Prefix sum. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I created a dictionary.
Okay.
Record. Now for every cumulative sum in that, what we are doing is like we are checking whether that cumulative sum, whichever cumulative sum you have picked, whether that will fall in your lower and upper bound or not. I think let's go through an example. Right.
So C sum minus target in the record.
Yeah, if it exists in your dictionary, in your record, in your hash map, then you pick. Then you pick the value corresponding to it and add it to your result. It's like I'll print it only.
Okay.
Also, can you explain the structure of record? It's a dictionary.
Pardon?
Can you also explain the structure of record? Is like index colon the prefix until there? Is it like that?
Prefix sum is not there. Index will be there. Yeah, index will be there. For getting the index only we are doing this one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is the brute force optimized version what Ankur was talking about, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So does it pass in lead code?
Yeah, it passes.
Really?
Python
Wow.
it may pass. In Python it passes.
Okay. Not the other languages.
Python, many languages can happen.
It's taking
Wow.
40, yeah, but still slower, 41% something.
But that's still better, right? 41% is not bad.
But for C++,
And
it will not pass.
Yeah, it
This
won't
is
pass.
the complexity is still n square, or
It is N square, yes. That is what I think. Maybe
yeah, it
someone
will
can
be
correct it. Yeah.
n square only. It will be because you are taking every target sum. Two for loops here itself you are using, right? For every current sum that you are getting in your array, you are checking whether that will fall in the range or not. If it is falling in the range, then that minus target will give you the starting index in the record.
that's also a good solution. But I don't know why they told it should be not to be n square, but this is a good approach, I would say.
Right.
No, but it is worth like order of n square also you are using, and space also you are using.
Yeah. So as per his note, he says this should not work because you should find something slightly lesser than O(n) square. Maybe, right?
It will not work in C++ for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we use the DP table or something like that?
Oh, okay. You're talking about the DP approach.
For every I,
The voice is breaking.
DP table, but I don't think it will work. But
You can rejoin again. I think it's voice.
means can we use a DP table? Means for every I and J indexes, we can use fill the table.
But why would you go for DP? Like, what intuition you got that you'll go for DP?
It is means it is not that much n square, but it is slightly less than n square. That's why because we can fill the values, some values by our intuitions.
Like, I want to ask you, like, what is the intuition behind DP? Like,
Yeah,
what is
context,
the
like what kind of sub problems you found repeated here, or anything like choices you found, something like that. Like, what gave you?
Means for S of I and J, we use the DP, and then we fill every values of where I equal to J is equal to index of this element, right?
Yeah, you're
For
talking
every
about
I
memoization. Yeah, go ahead.
memoization. I'm talking about memoization.
But like, okay, go ahead.
If I equal to J, then we can easily fill with the element of the array, and of the prefix array, and then first row will be our prefix array. If you observe it, first row is prefix array, and wherever I equal to J, then wherever wherever I is equal to J, then we should fill the by its element, and for all the values I greater than J, we should fill it with infinity or something like that.
I think he's talking about bottom up.
Yeah,
I'm
so
talking
I
about bottom up.
think, yeah, that is, that might also work. I'm not sure though. But you know, in that
It
case,
is still
you are
n,
still n square.
still
Yeah.
n, still n
Yeah,
square,
yeah.
but slightly less than n square. If you
Really?
because it is slightly less than n square because we are filling the means bottom of part means in a matrix we are filling the upper triangle, not a lower
Oh,
triangle.
okay. Like the chain matrix problems, I know. Okay.
But again, he's using half n square extra space, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
but it is still n
space
square.
is there. Yeah.
Shashank,
Yeah.
how is it n square? Can you explain me again?
My solution you're talking?
Yeah, your solution, which you are
So,
presenting right now.
yes, sure. So this is the cumulative sum you got, right? Now you'll take each of the cumulative sum and we'll try to check into lower and upper whether your zero is falling in this range or not. If it is falling,
Can you show me code again?
oh, sure. Okay, let me copy this one and put it here.
So I'm saying that your line 12 is n times, and then you are traversing between lower to upper range, so which can be anything. So suppose it won't be more than n. And
Exactly,
then,
not n. Yeah, okay.
and then you are doing a search in dictionary in your record. So that would be again log n.
No, I'm saying if let's say lower and upper bound, if in the worst case the distance between lower and upper is n.
Yeah, that's why we suppose it will not grow more than that. Then again at line number 14, you are doing a lookup in dictionary.
That would be order of 1 in Python.
Dictionary part will be order of 1, but 13 line won't take order of n.
Yeah, so we assume that the difference between this distance between upper and lower bound would not grow more than that. Right?
Would
This
not
also
grow?
is somewhat
It
less
would
than
not
order
be
of
more
n
than
square.
n. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Shashank, can you please dry run for an example? I'm still stuck. I'm not able to
Sure. So we got what do you say? Then you'll have a dictionary. Dictionary will initially contain 0, I think. Because int we are initializing it with int. Yeah, it should be 0 only. Oh, empty it is, right? Okay. Yeah. So what we are doing? You are taking first this one, and you are checking in your this. What you say? The lower and -2 and 2, and it is falling inside that. Then you will check this minus the target. And what is your target here is like
-2 for now.
Pardon?
Target will be -2, right? In the first iteration.
0. I didn't get why.
On line number 14, your lower and upper plus 1, the root will be from -2 to +3,
yeah.
right? In example 1, as per example 1.
Yeah, lower, it will be like 0 minus the lower number, -2.
-2 to 2 it will iterate, but have, I mean, if upper is 2, then it will iterate till 1 only. So he's doing upper plus 1.
Right. So currently the target will be 2, right? For the first iteration. Because
0 minus
0.
we are doing here. Minus of minus 2, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not in the
So
dictionary.
now what we'll go into dictionary, and dictionary is initially empty only. Now it will check whether sum minus target, is it existing or not. But it's not there, right?
Right.
So it won't do anything here, and again it will go record. I mean, it will some in front of 0. It will put 1. So in front of 0, it will increase it by 1.
Why would it do that?
Yeah, because he's storing the number of CSUMs
Where?
occurred. Like how many times this CSUM has occurred? The instances.
Number 17, right?
Yeah.
So for CSUM equal to 0, the entire inner loop will run, and then it will come out of the inner loop, and on line number 17 it will store 0:1, right?
Yeah, 0:1. Yeah. Correspond. Yeah.
I think
and
this is not n square. Yeah, that is right.
Yeah.
No, but if lower to upper is n, if that distance is n, then how will you? I mean, it will take linear time for target in range.
So target will always be from till n.
Yeah.
No, target can be anything with
target can be anything, right? The lower to the upper. So that lower upper could be very big, right?
Yeah.
Bigger than n. So as the result, it's gonna be more than n square.
Yeah, it can be more than n square.
More than n square.
Yeah, let's see if lower the distance between lower and upper is greater than n, right?
Let's say it's n.
No, we can put anything in there.
Lower and upper will be within your array limits only, nums limit only.
Is that given?
It can be a value, right? It can be anything. Negative, positive, anything, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
can be
so
minus infinity to positive
yeah,
infinity, right?
it's a different value. Yeah. So yeah, you cannot even compare that, right? That's true.
Yeah, it's not giving a question, but yeah, we are assuming that it's not, it won't be more than. This is just assumption. I think it won't pass the lead code.
So next time -2 will come, and -2 is again in your target, right?
Yeah, but anyway, this n square, whatever is saying lesser than n square, this is not what the interviewer will be expecting, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you think in his perspective, so this won't. But this is a good approach, though. Yeah. If nothing comes up, then this should be, at least we should be able to explain this.
Yeah, in the last option.
Yeah, it's not
One
even
was
maybe
like
better
merge
approach.
sort they are using. I don't know how.
Yeah, people are using very crazy things, and
They're using binary index tree also.
Binary index trees,
yeah, binary
BITs.
trees also.
And
I think
also
segment tree also,
different
right?
segment tree also.
Actually, yeah, segment tree would be working, but there's a long explanation of that. Like, you
I
need to
think
first understand.
normally the binary index tree be, having lesser number of code, but I don't know why the logic is so complex.
We can discuss about the fourth solution. That fourth solution must be understood well. That merge
So,
sort
but
solution.
which is the easiest one actually? All of
Fourth
them are
one,
complex, I would think.
Fourth one, I think somewhat easier.
Fourth one.
Fourth one.
Where is fourth one?
Go back.
In the discussion you're telling.
Discussion.
Okay.
This one, C++ merge sort, very short. Like he doesn't use any extra data structure like BITs or any. But still, it is difficult to understand.
No, but I think he is using in place or something here.
Yes, he is in place.
So why that in place? I didn't understand. It is another STL way of implementing a very optimized version.
But he isn't use any segment tree or BIT, so I thought maybe this we can understand.
Yeah, that is true. But if you look in the for loop while he's doing this while, okay, those two whiles. Okay, so what are these? Are you?
He's expanding the range. Like he's in this what I got. Like he expanding up to what point I can get these sums. What I got. Because prefix array is always in the sorted format, because we take summation of the elements in the array, it always comes in the sorted format. Therefore, we can do
that's not necessary.
Yeah, if it is negative number,
exactly.
It won't be sorted if it's negative number. Yeah.
Is it a sort code? I don't think it is a bit lengthy. It means all the codes are complex to a small one. It is difficult to understand if you want to understand.
Right. And also even coming up with a solution like this is not so easy.
Yes. So let's discuss some a brief one, something.
But no, even if it's a lengthy code, that is fine, but it should be easy to understand. That is what I would say.
So why is using this divide and conquer here?
He's trying to divide the whole array. So you can actually make two parts of that array.
Okay.
And when he is doing that, so actually you are reducing that time space. Like if you do merge sort also, right? You come to the end. And then when you have only one value or two value, if it's one value, you can compare whether it is within the range or not.
I think the logic is same as inverse count. Means we have inverse count problem.
Inversion
Count. I think it is same logic.
Inversion in the sense
that problem
means for suppose AI greater than AJ for every AI less than AI greater than AJ for every I less than J.
Okay, yeah, the one what we were discussing in the rotated sorted array, correct?
No, not that rotated sorted
Not
array.
that. That is also based on divide and conquer only in version 1, right?
It is based on divide and conquer array. We can also do with binary index tree, segment tree. I think it is same like that. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not able to recall.
Approach is same, but they have mixed some another approach and then modified that one.
So it's like I is less than, say, I mean, j should be greater than I, and a of I should be less than a
Index
of
should
j.
be opposite of what the means order of the elements.
Okay, so when you go ahead in your array, the next element should be smaller than the previous one. I mean, right? When you j is greater than I am saying I less than equal to j is greater than I, right? So when you are going ahead in the array, the next
Yes.
element should be lesser than the previous element.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why inversion is coming. Inversion count is.
So what did you say? Inversion count? Huh?
Yeah, inversion count in an array.
It's there in the HackerRank.
There is a problem here. It's a very famous problem in this one.
I think it is on the lead code also. We have on the hard problem. It's we have we have to count the means. Let me find it and then tell you.
Okay, so even if it's an indexed binary search, right? What we are talking about?
Yeah.
So what is that coming to?
Inversion, I'm not able to see, but that is a problem. Very.
Lead code problem 305, 315. 315. It is the same problem.
This one?
Yes, this one.
Yeah, this one I was talking. Count inward using merge sort. This is a different one, right?
It is same, but the way of expressing it is different.
I was talking about this inversion count for an array indices.
Means in that lead code problem, we have to find inversion count for each and every element.
Okay. So like here you can see 4 is smaller than 8, but your jth index is greater than I. So this is one of the inversion. Actually, it should have been that the next element should have been greater, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
The next element should be the element after ith index should be smaller than I.
Previous. Sorry. Yeah, I. Yeah, makes sense. But how it is similar, that I don't know.
Means they have mixed some approach. I have seen, but I don't know. I'm not getting it that approach.
So what about this? Like, we are not sure about this.
In this problem also we divide the means array into two parts, and then while combining we count the inversions.
Oh, when the entire element gets broken into single element, then while merging you will check whether your next element is smaller than this or not.
Yes. But a slight variation is means a slight variation in it. This means suppose you are merging to one element, then it is easy. Then suppose you are merging three means two elements or more than two elements, then we have to take care of the first array and second array.
Okay. So what about, sorry, What this one?
The, I,
So
the main
binary
thing we
index.
have to look is the 2y loop. Can we draw something? Look at that 2y loop, because that compared to the middle to the left side and the middle to the right side to the middle, right? M is the middle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Can we draw something just to understand it?
Yeah, sure. Middle means what?
It's a midpoint, right?
Yeah, M. Yeah, if you look at the Y loop, M is the middle, right?
Yeah.
Mid.
It starts with middle. M and N both starts with middle, but actually, if you see the sum of the middle and the I, which starts with low to mid, so it starts with the left side of that array. If it is lesser, then it keeps on incrementing. So I didn't understand why they are doing all that stuff.
Yeah, why it only lesser, not lesser and equal? Because equal would be fine too.
So if it is lesser, because it is out of the range, correct? I think so. Because if it should be greater than or equal to lower, then only it is in the range. So he's trying to bring that in the range. And then for that, he's looking only at the lower bound of that range. And the next while loop, he's trying to see if the value is greater than the upper bound. If it is, then it is trying to bring that lesser than the upper bound.
Equal would be fine, right? Because that's inclusive.
The second one, right, for the upper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I also don't know why he's saying that. Yeah, makes sense. But in the first place, why they have to do like that? Because if you look at it, sum of M minus sum of I, it is lesser than lower. The same thing for sum of N minus sum of I, again, lesser than or equal to upper. Both
So
of
he's
them
checking
lesser
the
than
index, he's checking the starting index, subtracting that element, and he's checking if that index is lesser than lower. Then you need to shift to the right, I mean, to the mid of a right.
I didn't follow that well. So something like the index binary search, right? So there are some variation in that too, right? So you can use upper bound and lower bound the way it is used in C++. You can find the iterators and then.
Can I try?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So this is first is plain merge sort, and if it's the third line where we are saying count equals to merge sort, two halves subprograms, it ensures that first half is sorted. And this for loop is ensuring it's trying to find 2 points N and M, which ensure that from N to M, the cumulative sum fall in the correct range.
Right.
So first condition is move to the left as much you can, and considering your cumulative sum is not less. I mean, the range is not less than lower. And another one is like move to the left side as much you can that you don't cross the upper range. And now you know the distance, and that range is your count. So every time you add this count. So yeah, and in the next call again, you will have another 2 sub problems. Yeah, and they are repeating it again and again.
So, but why do we have to move to the left?
Because the problem statement says that for a particular point, we have to find a range. And
for getting the starting index, we are moving to left. I mean, initial starting index.
Which line?
This, I mean, this line, while I was talking about lesser than lower, I mean.
Oh, so you're saying if we should take one element, each element of an array, and then we need to find, search for the whole array to the left of that, and see if that array has an impact on the cumulative sum, so it can fall in that range.
Yeah,
Something
that
like
is
that,
what.
right? Okay.
Initially, N is the mid, right? And M also a mid. And then the while loop we increment both, M and N. So it keep going up from the midpoint. Because look at line on that, their side.
Yeah, so we always have to go up because we want to see the cumulative sum, right?
One thing I want to ask, previously one person said that we are using equality in the case of upper and not equality is not in the case of lower. Why is like that?
Yeah, Leon asked, right? Okay. So
I'm not sure why equality is there in the lower side, not in the upper side.
Because I think when you do an index and when you already have a cumulative sum, so you don't have to go to the other side, one index more, right? Because you already have a cumulative sum. So if you just think on that terms, so you don't need to consider that value. You got my point. Whenever we are doing a cumulative sum, you always do a cumulative sum of the previous value with the current one, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So therefore, the one value which is lesser in the cumulative sum already has that element in it.
In this case, why we only look at the right half of the from low to high, because we move it from the mid, right?
Yeah, because that is the way the cumulative sum is going to increase, right? The prefix sum.
No, we don't know it increasing or not because they're both negative and positive.
No, but we already have a prefix sum or cumulative sum already, right? So we have already added all the values to our left side of our that element, correct? So we already have that information. Therefore, we are moving up for each and every element.
Okay, so where would you consider the left side of the between the lower and upper? Because in this 2y look, we only consider the right side of it.
The right side of the the right side of that element. So that is where your cumulative sum will be for that element.
Could be,
I don't know. I'm just trying to understand, think loud,
Yeah, until and unless we do dry run, we can't strictly
Is there another solution that's easier to understand?
So
somebody knows Fenwick tree and all, because that makes it easier, right?
Okay, I just have one small, I'll just share, but I'm not sure I'll be able to explain it.
Yeah, let's see.
Okay, yeah. So this is the Are you able to see my screen?
It's loaded. Yeah, got it.
So this one, we have a map for this prefix sum. Okay. So you are going in a while loop, the for loop for each and every index. And here actually is a sum, which is doing a prefix sum, but it's not completely doing, it's doing part, element by element. And then it's trying to find in this map the upper bound. Okay. And here is trying to find the lower bound. So you have two iterators in this case, and then you just iterate them. So if upper iterator is not equal to the lower iterator, that will be your exit condition from this one. So initially, if they are not same, then only it will enter, because if they are
Only
they are
one element
same.
is there, that means. Yeah.
Yeah. So the upper bound will always have values which are greater than the actual value of this one.
Yeah.
And the lower bound will have the values which are equal to or greater than this value. So, so this is one very simple implementation. It looks though, but I don't know.
In 13 line, what is that in linked list or what? I mean, arrow, what does that denote? Lower bound arrow?
This one? This line?
Yeah, yeah. Arrow is there, no, in between lower iterator and second. What is that?
Oh, this is actually pointing to the second value. So it is pointing to this integer of that prefix value. So you are doing like this in your
hash map one.
Yeah. So we are incrementing that value, correct?
Yeah.
So whatever the number of counts are, it's going to return. So you already have that much that value sum, right? So you can consider all of them to be a part of this count value.
Have you initialized your map?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Have you
go ahead.
initialized your map? Have you initialized your map?
I am not getting it.
Means line number 4. After line number 4, have you initialized your map?
Oh,
No, you don't need it. You don't need to initialize it.
I thought some slicing version. Yeah.
No, in C++ you don't need to initialize the way we do in Java.
By default, it's 0.
Yeah, by default there are no values. Just start using it. Even if you directly use like this, still it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's some good things about C++ still. But the framework might be doing a lot of other stuff, which might not be good also, performance-wise. But yeah. So yeah, it looks easy to understand. Some people might actually get this, but yeah.
Intuition is again like.
I don't know. I think it's something to do with the index binary search.
Exactly. Yeah. That would make it much more simpler, that data structure. Because I think it will put you in two different paths, right? Like lower they might take in one path of a tree and higher in other upper.
So the way you implemented Shashank, it might be something similar to this one. That is what I think.
Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, yeah, because someone is doing.
Right. Because again, I am having a for loop, but in this for loop, I am just iterating to those only range. Okay, so here it appears that I'm not using a second for loop, but this second for loop, what you are using is slightly similar to the way.
Here it is used.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to certain extent, we got like, let's find out, search more if we get.
Yeah, the index binary search, I think we should read about it.
Post it in Discord.
Yeah.
I think
we can take in Sunday session.
Yeah.
Segment tree is also a way I think we can use, but I'm not very sure about how to entirely implement it. But I have a little idea.
Yes, we can do it with Fenwick trees. Binary index trees and Fenwick trees both are same.
Okay.
What is the concept in the Fenwick tree? Briefly, can you say?
Actually, in the Fenwick tree means we move from log n position. But suppose we create a Fenwick tree array in which all are initialized to 0, and and then after that at every index we store some subset of sums. Means that is predefined. That is, for example, for the odd numbers we can store from 3 to 3, and for odd numbers 3 to 3, and for even numbers in a multiple of 2, means power of 2, we can store from 1 to that number. For example, 2, that is a power of 2, so we can store from 1 to 2, and for example 4, that is also a power of 2, so we can store from 1 to 4. And these two cases are same, but for other cases we have to check and move the bit means log n bits away.
Log n bits, right?
For example, means we move first we remove the last set bit.
Okay.
Then we should take AND with minus of that number. If we do that, then we get to the power n. I'm not. Are you getting?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
to some extent, because it's a very new concept, it will be slightly
exactly.
difficult to digest initially.
Means it is very easy concept if you but it is difficult to implement in this problem because I have implemented for the range sum query and other also that it's very easy to code, but I don't know why it is not working here. I mean, it means the concept is something changed.
Okay, so if you are using saying range sum query, so it means you can use a segment tree also in that case, correct?
Yes. Means wherever the problem can be solved with a Fenwick tree, we can solve it also with a segment tree, but not vice versa. Means
These
some
data
problem
structures are used in this range sum query problems only.
Means suppose these data structures are mainly used when we have to update and simultaneously have to calculate this the means query, updation plus query. Then we can use that.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
You'll have to look. I mean, once.
Yeah, maybe actually
Means
these are some
Fenwick trees
advanced.
is very easy.
Really?
Fenwick trees is very easy, but segment trees I think it is typical.
Okay.
It is contain only 10 lines of codes.
Oh, okay. But we'll have to understand it properly and then
concept.
Yes.
Yeah. No
concept
problem.
need to be understood.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing this.
Yeah.
I think let's take this in our Sunday session. Someone actually has some time or slot.
Sure.
And then we can go ahead.
Who is going to take the session?
It depends. If you want, you can. Anyone, like a volunteer.
Okay. So anyone master over means some
No. Like
you don't have to be master, but
yeah, exactly.
If you think sometimes what happens, if I think, okay, this is very interesting to me, I know I want to learn it, so I try to learn on my own and then try to present it there, so that will be good learning for all of others also. They will give you inputs and it will benefit for both of them because you will also get more input.
Yeah, concepts will be more clear for you also. Like people will ask you questions and you'll find that no, I was lacking at that point.
Yeah,
that would be much more.
Yeah, the group is very cooperative, collaborative, so
exactly,
it's not a problem.
Have you watched that DP problem?